بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
قد كفاني علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري فدعائي وابتهالي شاهد لي بافتقاري.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه سلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد. So today is the third class on al-usool al-thalatha. We've covered the introduction. Today's the fourth class. We've done the introduction. We've discussed Be-ism'ilah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We discussed Muhammad ibn Abdul-Wahab. And now we're going to go to the next lines. So the book starts, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'lam rahimakallah. That's the next two lines. I'lam means know. Like, it's telling you to know. It's calling upon you to know. And rahimakallah is may Allah have mercy upon you. The word i'lam is mentioned in the Qur'an with its different variations, its different conjugations, 779 times. So that's the first thing that we're going to talk about, is the importance of i'lam, which is knowledge, and the word i'lam in the Qur'an. So the importance of knowledge. When you look at the story of Adam alayhi salatu salam in Surah Al-Baqarah, and you analyze it, you'll see something about the creation of Adam. This is Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat 30 to 34.
وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً قالوا أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء ونحن نسبح بحمدك ونقدس لك قال إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون وعلم آدم الأسماء كلها ثم عرضهم على الملائكة فقال أنبئوني بأسماء هؤلاء إن كنتم صادقين قالوا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم قال يا آدم أنبئهم بأسمائهم فلما أنبأهم بأسمائهم قال ألم أقل لكم إني أعلم غيب السماوات والأرض وأعلم ما تبدون وما كنتم تكتمون.
And mention, O Muhammad, when your Lord said to the angels, indeed I will make upon the earth a successive authority, a khalifa. They said, will you place upon it one who causes corruption therein and sheds blood, while we declare your praise and sanctify you? And Allah said, indeed I know that which you know not. And He taught Adam all the names, and then he showed them to the angels and said, inform me the names of these if you are truthful. They said, exalted are you, we have no knowledge except what you have taught us. Indeed it is you who are the knowing, the wise. He said, O Adam, inform them of their names. And when he had informed them of their names, he said, did I not tell you that I know the unseen of the heavens and the earth, and I know what you reveal and what you have concealed? So knowledge, ilm, with its variations, with its different conjugations, with its different versions, ilm, is mentioned in these 4 ayat, talking about Adam alayhi salam, 8 times in those 4 ayat. It might be ilm, it might be ta'alamun, It might be alama or alamtana. But in these ayats, it's mentioned 8 times about Adam alayhi salatu. And in the Qur'an as a whole, 779 times. And not only is it in these 4 verses, mentioned in these 4 verses, but it's more delicate than that. Adam had a virtue and an excellence that made the angels prostrate to him. So why is Adam ﷺ better than the angels? The angels never sin. They can't even sin. All they do is worship Allah and obey Allah to a T. That's it. So why is Adam better than the angels? The angels obviously praise Allah more than Adam. The angels glorify Allah more than Adam. And they thank Allah more than Adam. So why are they praising Adam ﷺ? Why are they even making sujood to him? Something that shaitan refused to do. It's because Adam had the superiority of knowledge ﷺ. And not only did he have the knowledge, but he applied the knowledge as a khalifa on this earth. As Allah said,
وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً.
And mention, O Muhammad, when your Lord said to the angels, indeed I'll make upon the earth a successive authority, a khalifa. They said, will you place it upon one who causes corruption and bloodshed, which is a shaitan. So knowledge is important. An ummah that wants to lead all the other all the other nations, needs to have knowledge. Ummah means group or a large group of nation. And so we have all the other ummah of the earth, but we are the ummah of the Muslims. This is an ummah that transcends race, right? We're a nation that doesn't have a singular race or ethnicity. But Allah sent us to guide all the other nations. The reason why is because we enjoin in the good and we forbid in the evil. No other nation does that except the Muslims. And to do that, we need knowledge. Without knowledge, shirk and kufr seeps into the nation. Disbelief and misguidance comes into the ummah and it destroys us and it misguides us. It goes into the individual and the community. And if we don't have our Islam, then we're not part of that ummah. And how can we be the best? Everything requires knowledge, not just Tawheed. Tawheed is the heart and the core of all knowledge. It's the most important of knowledge. But it's not the only knowledge we have. Even manners require knowledge. If you don't have knowledge for your manners, then your manners are going to become tainted and incorrect. Like that right there. What did we talk about sitting with the crossed legs? We don't do it when we're in a majlis. And when you see the standards today, you see people who are called heroes and leaders and shuyukh and imams, but really they're cowards. Really they have people paying them, or they're afraid to say something that displeases a government or a group. And without knowledge today, we have free mixing and free mingling, and that's called freedom and independence. We say, oh, you shouldn't separate the males and the females because that's segregation and it limits freedom. Without knowledge, insulting, attacking, degrading and transgressing upon Islam, insulting Muhammad ﷺ, tarnishing the name of Allah, that's considered intellect. That's considered free speech. We talked about how honorable the name of Allah is last class. But now, if you want to have free speech, the first thing you have to do is drag the name of Allah in the dirt. Mu'adallah min dhalik. Ilm is so important that the more you see the lack of it, the closer we are to Yawm al-Qiyamah, Judgment Day. The more jahiliyyah, the more ignorance you see, the closer we are to Judgment Day. It's one of the signs of the Judgment Day. So everybody who wants to make a change in his environment or in his community or in the ummah as a whole, a beneficial change, they need ilm, they need knowledge. The greatest revivers of all times were the messengers and the prophets. And that is because they had ilm. We mentioned how Adam ﷺ, how ilm was mentioned 8 times in 4 ayat about him in Surah Al-Baqarah. But it's not just Adam ﷺ, it's also Lut ﷺ. Allah says about Lut,
وَلُوطًا آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا.
we gave him wisdom and knowledge. And when we look at Musa ﷺ,
وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ وَاسْتَوَى آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا.
similarly, Allah mentions that. You look at Yusuf ﷺ in the Qur'an.
وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا.
We gave him knowledge and wisdom when Allah is talking about Yusuf ﷺ. Yaqub ﷺ.
وَإِنَّهُ لَذُو عِلْمٍ لِمَا عَلَّمْنَا.
He is a man of knowledge from that which we have given him of our knowledge. Dawood and Sulaiman alayhi salatu.
ففهمناها سليمان وكلا آتينا حكما
We gave each
وعلما.
one of them a wisdom and knowledge. And Shaykh al-Islam Taqiyuddin Ibn Taymiyyah, this is one of the biggest scholars of Islam, one of the greatest scholars ever. He's called Shaykh al-Islam, that's what he's known by from history. When he had a trouble understanding something, when for some reason something wouldn't absorb in his head, this is the man who, when his family took a trip to the beach, he memorized an entire book of Hanbali fiqh. That's how much of a genius he was. But sometimes he would have trouble memorizing something. So what would he do? This is dua he would make. We just mentioned this ayah about Dawood and Sulaiman alayhim salatu. He would say, Ya mu'allima Dawood alimni, Ya mufahim Sulaiman fahimni. Oh, the one who taught Dawood, teach me. Oh, the one who made Sulaiman understand, make me understand. So if you're ever struggling in your studies, struggling to memorize something to learn, it's good to go and make sujood to make that dua. That's just a side note. And Allah says we gave each one of them wisdom and knowledge. And about Isa alayhi salam,
علمتك الكتاب والحكمة والتوراة والإنجيل.
I taught you the book, the wisdom, the Torah, the gospel. And about Muhammad sallallahu
وعلمك ما لم تكن
we
تعلم.
taught you that which you did not know. And without knowledge there's no leadership, there's no power, there's no legitimate sovereignty. The first revelation of Muhammad sallallahu was knowledge.
اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق.
Iqra. When Jibril alayhi salatu came to Muhammad, the first thing he said was Iqra. And this is even mentioned in the Bible, that an unlettered prophet will be told to read and he'll say, I cannot read. Jibril alayhi salatu came to Muhammad, he said Iqra. And he said, I can't read. And he said Iqra. And eventually he said Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. So the first thing was Iqra. So the first command of Islam was read, Iqra. So that means everything that comes after that has to be founded on this first thing, which is Iqra, which comes from knowledge. You use Iqra to get knowledge. Allama, qalam. All these are referring to knowledge. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Khalaqa al-insana min alaq. And later it goes, it talks about the qalam. He taught mankind what he did not know. Allama. In the Qur'an, the second most used word after Allah is ilm and its variations. So the number one most popular word in the Qur'an, the most repeated word is Allah. And the second is ilm, which is 779 times. And if you look at leadership qualities, when Allah chose for Bani Israel, the people of Israel, Talut alayhi salam, He told the messenger,
وقال لهم نبيهم إن الله قد بعث لكم طالوت ملكا.
tell them Talut is your king. And Talut is from a fraction of Bani Israel that didn't have kings. They had two groups in the people of Israel. They had a group who they allowed kings to come from and a group who they didn't. So they had this kind of segregation. These people have a lineage where they can be kings and these people don't. And Talut, the man that Allah appointed for them, was from the group of people that Allah said that they believed could not be kings, but Allah made him a king from them. But they said, the first thing, he can't even be a king. He's not a descendant of kings. And then said, number two, maybe we'll let that first one slide, right? He's not supposed to be a king. Maybe we'll let that slide, but he has no money.
ولم يؤت سعة من المال.
So they went back and they fought with their messenger. And they said, we don't accept this man as our king. We don't accept Talut. He has no money. He's not from their fraction that can be kings. And then while this feud, this argumentation is going along, Allah reveals to His messenger to tell them,
إن الله اصطفاه عليكم.
Allah chose him for you. And that's it. That's the end of it. So why did Allah choose him? Why did Allah choose this man who's not supposed to be a king and is not wealthy to be the king? Why? Look at the Qur'an and look at what it says about his characteristics.
إن الله اصطفاه عليكم وزاده بسطة في العلم والجسم.
Imagine that he has more knowledge and more power than you. Knowledge and power, characteristics of a true strong leader to lead a strong nation. And even amongst the jinn, knowledge is praised, and those with more knowledge are at a higher ranking. Look at Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam, when he wanted to get from Bilqis' palace, the first one.
قال عفريت من الجن أنا آتيك به قبل أن تقوم من مقامك.
Ifrit said, I will get it for you before you get up. And then the other one said, the one who was more knowledgeable. Allah says,
قال الذي عنده علم من الكتاب أنا آتيك به قبل أن يرتد إليك طرفك.
I'll get it to you before you blink. That was the one who was chosen, the one who was more knowledgeable. In fact, when everything was done with Bilqis, the final thing Sulaiman said,
وَأُوتِينَا الْعِلْمِ.
He said, and we were given knowledge. So what's the definition of ilm? What's the definition of knowledge? Knowledge or ilm means to comprehend the reality of something as it truly is, to fully comprehend it. And with certainty, without doubt. That's knowledge. So when the author Muhammad ibn Abdul-Wahab rahimahullah, he says, ilm, he's saying teach. He's preparing you for some kind of important knowledge. This is something that you need to know with certainty. This is something you need to comprehend entirely. It's used when there's some important knowledge that's coming. And it's used when there's some important knowledge here. And in this book, it's the most important kind of knowledge, which is Tawheed, understanding Allah. And what the author is talking about, this i'lam, this thing that you need to know about, is the three essential matters, al-usool, the three fundamental principles of Islam. So these are the matters that he's telling you, listen up to these. So the usage of the word i'lam. Can we talk about i'lam to something other than a human? Does it go for humans and animals or just humans? This is a linguistic point, and it's only really a matter of the Arabic language, but we should mention it because there are some hadith that pertain to this. So, and out of these hadith you'll get out of them that they're authentic, and you'll understand the point of this matter more so. I'lam, the linguistic scholars mention, is for someone who comprehends. You can't tell this wall here, i'lam. This wall doesn't have a mechanism to understand or comprehend. Right? You can't tell this carpet, i'lam, because it can't understand as a whole. Some ulama went into depth and said a wall and a rock and a tree can learn, and you can tell them i'lam and teach them. But this would only be for Allah or somebody who can teach a rock, somebody who can make that happen. For us, this is not possible. So for us, we wouldn't say i'lam to these things. But some of the scholars went so in depth, they said it's possible in certain circumstances. But whoever has the capability, being susceptible to learn, then you can say i'lam and you can teach them because they have the capacity to learn. So for example, in one of the hadith, there was a stone that ran away from Musa alayhi salam. Musa alayhi salam was a very modest man. Some people say this hadith is weak, but it's actually in Bukhari. This is not a weak hadith. And Musa alayhi salam was always keep his body covered. None of his body was seen because he was extremely modest. Unlike what the children of Bani Israel used to do when they were bathing together and being very immodest. Some of the children of Bani Israel said he concealed himself. He didn't show his body because he had some kind of disease and he didn't want people to see that. Of course, that's not accurate. Some people said, he got leprosy or he has a hernia. In Arabic, it's called the udhra. He has some kind of defect in him. Allah wanted to make it clear that Musa alayhi salam, he had no defect. So one day when he was alone, he put his clothes on the stone and he went to go bathe and clean himself by himself in seclusion. When he came back from the stone, when he finished taking the bath and went to get his clothes, the stone actually got up and took his clothes and ran away. This is a miracle from Allah. If Allah made us, we're just some turab, some dirt, some clay live, then He can make a stone live, no problem. Allah is all powerful. So the stone took his clothes and ran off with it. And the stone took it and fled. And so Musa picked up his staff and he ran after the stone. And he began to say, and this is the point of the matter. My garment, stone. My garment, stone. Meaning, give me back my clothes. He's telling the stone, give me back my garment. He ran until he reached the company of Bani Israel, who were gathered, and they saw him naked. They saw him naked, and they saw that there was nothing wrong with his body, and this was solid proof that they were wrong, and that they were oppressing him, and they were lying against him. And that what they said, their accusations were incorrect. The stone stopped, and Musa ﷺ took his clothes, and he took his staff, and he began to hit the stone. And this is the second point for what we're talking about. He hit the stone. How does he hit a stone? Why is he even talking to a stone? How does he talk to a stone? When the rock showed signs that it can comprehend, that it can understand, he treated it as something that had comprehension. And that is a story that Allah revealed about it.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تكونوا كالذين آذوا موسى فبرأه الله مما قالوا وكان عند الله وجيها.
O you who believe, do not be like those who annoyed and accused Musa. And Allah cleared him of what they said, and he was honored by Allah. And this verse is in Surah Al-Ahzab. And the point of the story is, he beat the stone, he hit the stone, which is a sign. Yes, it's an old way of teaching. It's a way where there's a negative association with something that's done with bad, if you look at it from a psychological perspective. But in the end, he was trying to teach the stone by hitting it. He reprimanded the stone, and he talked to it. And he told the stone to give him back the garment. He said, Thobi Hajar. The hajar is rock, and thobi is my garment, my thob. So when the rock showed signs that it's different from a normal rock, that he can understand that it's responsive, that he can teach it, and he did teach it in an old-fashioned way, he got his point across. So that's what the linguistic ulama, the scholars of the Arabic language were saying about ilm. In terms of, sometimes it can apply to things that are other than human. And so, sometimes to get the point across a little bit better, in Sunan al-Hakim, Ad-Darimi, Bayhaqi, and Ibn Kathir consider this hadith authentic, and so did Albani rahimahullah. About the hadith that I'm going to mention, about the Bedouin who came to Muhammad ﷺ to take a shahada. And when he came passing by, Muhammad ﷺ taught him Islam, and the Bedouin decided to take his shahada. So Muhammad ﷺ said, you testify that there's nothing worthy of worship except for Allah, Muhammad is His messenger. And he said to the Bedouin, do you testify to that? The Bedouin was giving Muhammad ﷺ a little bit of a hard time. He wanted to make sure. He said, who can testify to what you're telling me to testify to? You have to bring me proof to make me testify to that. He wants a miracle or something to substantiate to what Muhammad ﷺ said. So Muhammad ﷺ called a tree. And a tree actually came over from a faraway distance, and it came over. And it came to Muhammad ﷺ dragging its roots. And it agreed with Muhammad ﷺ, saying to Muhammad ﷺ, the tree said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. So the tree, Muhammad ﷺ spoke to the tree. And the tree responded. And the Bedouin, to continue the story, he became Muslim. You know, he saw the miracle, he's going to become Muslim. And he told Muhammad ﷺ, if people embrace Islam, where I go, I'm going to go back, I will stay there and teach them, if my people embrace Islam. But if they don't, I'm going to come back and join you. Normally, you don't go to a tree, you're not going to walk outside the masjid, find a tree, sit down, open the Qur'an, and try and teach the tree. You don't do that. However, in this specific instance, this is a tree that could understand, that could comprehend. And so when it showed signs of understanding, it could be taught. So that tree was capable of receiving ilm. That tree is applicable for you to say ilm to it. And sometimes you can teach a rock. Sometimes you can teach a rock, but you can't teach a human being. It's possible that this could happen. Sometimes human beings, the heart is sealed completely shut. There's a lock over it, and you can't do anything to it. Sometimes their heart is like a cup that's turned upside down. If you can pour water on a cup that's turned upside down, the same way you can pour water on a cup that's turned upside up, but only one of them is going to hold the water and retain the water. And a tree and a rock sometimes can be more susceptible to knowledge than a person, like in the instances of Muhammad and Musa. Rasulullah said, I know a stone in Mecca that used to give salutations to me, that used to give me salam, before he got his first revelation. This is in Sahih Muslim. So when he was in Mecca, there was a stone that would try and give him salam. And this is before he became a messenger. He used to say, Salamu alaikum o Rasulillah, before Muhammad got his first message. And it got to the point where that stone was to the Sahaba. The trees that used to share Muhammad so no one would see when he would go to the restroom, that these trees and these stones are actually considered Sahaba. This rock that used to send salam and these trees that used to cover Muhammad these are actually considered Sahaba because they used to understand. The linguistic scholars say if non-humans show understanding, signs of understanding, comprehension, then they can be told i'lam and they can be taught. So the word i'lam and knowledge, i'lam, is normally for humans who can comprehend or are susceptible of understanding, not for stones and sticks. But when non-human things, inanimate objects or jinn show concepts of understanding and they're susceptible to learning, and then they can be taught and they can be told i'lam or whatever word it might be, or to them or anyone else. So this is i'lam about other than human beings. Can you say i'lam to somebody who is more knowledgeable to you? Can you go to the sheikh and be like i'lam? Can you tell a scholar i'lam? We'll take it to another extreme. And we'll take it to the most extreme. Can you tell the most knowledgeable ever i'lam? Can you go to Allah? Or not to Allah, we'll discuss Allah later. But can you tell somebody who's the most knowledgeable person i'lam? Yes, you can. For an example, a scholar might know about Al-Asr, but he might have forgotten what the specific time it is for Al-Asr. So you can tell him it's time for Asr right now. He's forgotten. So ilm or knowledge, someone who is less knowledgeable can teach someone who has more than him and tell him i'lam. Someone who has higher knowledge can overlook something simple. When somebody lower knowledge might know something simple, and he can tell that shaykh. So what are the levels of knowledge? Ibn al-Qayyim said, rahimahullah, in Miftah Daras al-Sa'ada, he said,
وقال العلامة ابن القيم في مفتاح دار السعادة وللعلم 6 مراتب أولها حسن السؤال، الثانية حسن الإنصات والاستسماع، الثالثة حسن الفهم، الرابعة الحفظ، الخامسة التعليم. شهد الله أنه لا إله إلا هو والملائكة أولو العلم قائما بالقسط لا إله إلا هو العزيز الحكيم.
The levels of knowledge are 6. These are the ladders of knowledge. The first one is asking and pursuing correctly. Asking and pursuing knowledge is correctly. Some people can't get knowledge because they don't ask and they don't look for it in the proper methodology. They don't have the proper adab, which is why we discuss adab al-majalis, one of the first things that we discuss. They might not ask for knowledge at all. Some people, they don't even look for knowledge. They don't search for knowledge. They don't want knowledge. They don't care. Or they might have a question, but they might not ask. Or some people, they might ask about something, but there's something more important that they need to be asking about. For example, they might ask, am I allowed to shave my beard? But they don't know if they're committing an act of disbelief by working in their job. Maybe their job is to spy on a Muslim, and then they become a non-Muslim, but they're asking you, am I allowed to shave my beard? There's something more important that they need to discuss. And we discussed this with the dawah Muhammad ibn Abdul-Wahab, how he prioritized. So they might ask about something which is less important for them and for their deen, their religion, rather than ask about something that's more important. That's a problem that happens when many people are trying to learn on their own, and it becomes a big issue. and they need at least some kind of foundation to learn. Some of the Salaf said, you went asking or pursuing or tulab al-ilm, prompting knowledge, is half of knowledge. So half of ilm, half of just holding knowledge is the way you go about learning it. So asking or pursuing or seeking knowledge in the right manner is half of knowledge, is half of ilm. So for example, if somebody starts studying Islam and they start studying the laws of inheritance, you know, how much does my son inherit? How much does my daughter inherit? How much does this person, that person? But they don't know the fiqh of tahara, the fiqh of purification. They don't know how to make ghusl. They have a wet dream and then they don't know how to purify themselves, so they make a salah, but they know the fiqh of inheritance. Is that allowed? Or more example. Somebody tries to go to the book called aqeedah tahawiyah, which is, inshallah, the next book we'll study after this book. Inshallah. They might try and go to that book and understand it, and they find that it's a really difficult book, and even some of the ulama have a hard time understanding it, but they never even studied a basic book. They never went to usool thalatha, but they want to go to aqeedah tahawiyah. This is incorrect. The second one is listening and being silent. Allegedly said that Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu ta'ala anhu arda said that if you sit with a scholar, being more eager to hear than you are to speak. Listen more than you want to talk. And obviously the third aspect to that is to understand, which is obvious. And the next rule that Ibn Qayyim mentions after understanding is hifz, memorization, which is very important. Because if you memorize something, you have an intellectual layout that you can always refer to. Even in English, there's a lot of benefit to it. Though it's best in Arabic, but even in English, there's a lot of benefit to it. And there are things, especially in our knowledge, that you got to memorize. There are certain things that you need to memorize it. The fifth one is ta'aleem. You have to teach. After all of that, after all these levels, after you listen to the shaykh and you've understood and you've memorized it, then you need to teach as well. And this is later on, obviously, after you've understood and you've learned and you've memorized. And the sixth one is the fruit of knowledge, which is to act upon what you've learned. You've taught it, now you need to apply it. And to know the limits and boundaries of what you learned and what you've taught. Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu arda said, knowledge calls for action. If it responds, it stays. If it doesn't respond, it moves away. So, when you learn something, you need to act upon it. And if you don't act upon it, you forget it. You can memorize something for an exam, but then it goes away. But if you memorize how to build something, and you're always building it, are you going to forget it? No. You might not review the notes, you might not look over the instruction manual, but you'll never forget how to build it, because you're applying the knowledge. Ash-Sha'bi said, our support for memorization of our knowledge used to come from acting upon it. So if you want to memorize something, you need to act upon it. If you want to memorize the perfect way to pray, you need to pray in the perfect way. Al-Fudayl ibn Iyad said, and Muhammad ibn Nadr, Sufyan ibn Uyayna, Umar ibn Ala, and others said similar things to that. A side thing is, Al-Khalal said, when he wanted to study Arabic grammar, he said, I went to study grammar. I stayed 1 year silent. The next year, I considered and I looked about it. I thought about it. Andart. The third year, I pondered over it. I thought about it. Tadbart. And in the fourth year, I began to ask my shaykh. As'alt. So it took him 4 years to ask a question. It took him 4 years just to him to ask his shaykh a question. Now I'm not telling you to take 4 years to ask a question. I'm just showing you an example. This is just some of the things some of the old ulama said. This should show you the level of sabr or patience that they had for attaining knowledge. It just shows you that knowledge needs to be learned and attained in a structured, systematic, methodological way. Not overnight, not some sporadic thing. You learn one thing 1 year, you learn something different 1 year. You don't learn your basics, you learn the most complex thing first. No, that's not the way it works. Now we're going to discuss the honor of knowledge. Next point in I'lam rahimakallah is we're still on I'lam. We're not on rahimakallah yet. Is the honor of knowledge. This is inshallah to inspire you to never stop learning. Anas ibn Malik radiallahu ta'ala anhu وارضاه said, Muhammad ﷺ said in Ibn Majah, Muhammad ﷺ said, learning is an obligation on every Muslim. طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم. طلب العلم, the prompting of knowledge. This hadith is considered weak by some because of some within the sanad, within the change. But other ulama have considered it sahih, authentic, like Al-Muzi, As-Suyuti, and Al-Albani rahimahullah jami'an. Rahimahumullah jami'an. Ahmad said, rahimahullah, one must know, it's obligatory on one to know that which he needs to establish his deen. You must, as an obligation from Islam, and we're going to talk about this when we talk about the 4 introductory matters, so the 3 introductory matters. We discussed, I told you, there's going to be 4 things before we get to the 3 fundamental principles, right?
The 4 fundamentals before the 3 fundamentals.
Exactly, the 4 fundamentals before the 3 fundamentals. We're going to discuss this specifically, what you need to know. So, example, salah, siyam, you need to know that. It's fard or wajib for you to know. So that means, after Allah gives His testimony, the honor, and the angels give their testimony, right now. Who gives their testimony? For example, the Prophet, Allah, the messenger, bears witness in the ayah that there's nothing worthy of worship to be Him. Think about that. Except for Him. Allah bears witness to that. Al-Qurtubi said about this, about this ayah. And look at the third one. Have there been anyone more knowledgeable than the scholars of the category of human beings? Allah would have combined them to His name the way He did that to the angels and the ulama in this ayah. Allah, He mentioned them together. Allah testified the angels, and then He said the knowledgeable people. So Allah said He testifies to Himself, the angels, and then the knowledgeable people. Allah in the Qur'an told Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, taslima kathira. He told him essentially to say, Rabbi zidni ilman. My Lord, increase me in knowledge. And he didn't say Allah, he says my Lord, the one who cherishes me. So he's putting ilm on something that we need it for nourishment. We talked about Rabb last class. Allah tells His messenger to ask Allah to gain more knowledge. This is His own messenger. So if there was anything more honorable to gain other than knowledge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have told His messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam to say that. He would have told him to ask for more wealth or prestige or fame. And there's another ayah in Surah Taha, which inshallah will be online. But He told him to ask for knowledge. And in the next ayah, Allah says, it is only those who have knowledge amongst His slaves that truly fear Allah. So Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, Man hiradallah biha khayr. The Arabic is messed up here. Anytime you feel relaxed or lazy about getting knowledge, listen to this hadith in Bukhari Muslim. Whoever Allah wishes khair and good for them, He gives them profound understanding of His deen. So if Allah wants something good for somebody, He doesn't give them money, He doesn't give them kids, He gives them understanding of the deen. That's the most important thing, the first thing of khair. So the fact that you are here today, inshallah, is a sign that Allah likes you and that He wants good for you, inshallah. In Sahih Muslim, Muhammad said, whoever treads a path to acquire knowledge of the deen, and we're talking about knowledge of the deen. When he says ilm here, he's talking about knowledge of the deen. He's not talking about secular knowledge that has nothing to do with Islam. Allah will make easy for him to tread the path to Jannah. So whoever walks a path seeking knowledge, Allah makes it easy for him to tread a path to Jannah. Whoever walks a path looking for knowledge, Allah makes it easy for him to gain a path to Jannah. So just by you sitting here, learning, just sitting there, that's it. Or those, maybe you're going to go online and you're going to review. Learning Islam, inshallah, that Allah will make it easy for you a path to Jannah, or that is your path to Jannah. You are forging a path for you to Jannah. That's what you do when you study Islam. Abu Darda said in a hadith in Ibn Majah, also in Abu Dawood, in Tirmidhi, he said, look at the value of knowledge. Look at how big this ordeal of knowledge is. Inshallah, that we will be students of knowledge. Whoever treads a path in search of knowledge, Allah will direct him to tread a path to enter paradise. This portion of hadith, of course, we mentioned it is in Sahih Muslim. The rest of the hadith, and this part is also mentioned in Ibn Majah, Sunan Abu Dawood, and At-Tirmidhi. It says, the angels lower their wings for the student of knowledge in approval of that what he does. So these angels, these perfect beings, they lower their wings for a student of knowledge. These angels that don't sin, they lower their wings for a student of knowledge. The angels love you so much, they respect you so much, and they honor you, that they come down and they lower their wings and they humble themselves for you. And they protect you and they guard you. Why? Because you love Islam and you made an effort to love Islam, and you made an effort to understand and protect Islam. And another thing, when you come to the masjid, when you're riding to the masjid, there are angels that travel the roads looking for somebody like you, looking for somebody who's seeking knowledge. Imagine these angels, maybe in the last 500, 600, 700, 800, maybe 1,000 years. Maybe there's never been, or we know Allah sent prophets, but maybe in 20,000 or 2,000, 3,000 years, there hasn't been a single Muslim walking these roads to go and seek knowledge. And this angel has been walking this road for hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years, just looking for one person who's looking for knowledge, and then they see you. Imagine how much they're going to honor you. Think about that. They've been looking for you for hundreds of years. Imagine how much the angel will honor for you and make a dua for you. And the hadith goes on, the other hadith goes on to say, a person of knowledge, a seeker of knowledge, a knowledgeable person, the heavens and the earth seek forgiveness for a student of knowledge. So the very earth, the dirt on the floor, and the heavens above your head will ask Allah to forgive you if you're a person of knowledge. It will actually make dua for Allah to forgive you. And it's not just humans and jinn that are making istighfar. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, everything. It's not just human beings. It's the fish, it's the whale. Imagine the whale or the fish or those incredible species that you see deep underneath at the bottom of the ocean, dark, where there's no light, where no human has ever been. They're making dua for you. And the heavens and the earth are making dua for you because you sought knowledge. What else could you possibly want? Who else do you want to make dua for you? So be steadfast in studying knowledge wherever you are. And the next portion of hadith is about the superiority of a scholar over a worshipper. It says, the scholar is superior over a worshipper like the full moon is to the stars. So somebody who worships Allah day and night, who prays the nights, who fasts the days, you see the star, that's him. And the one who studies Islam is the moon. That's the difference. You see how supreme the moon is over the stars when you look at the night, and how it outshines them, and how it's the first thing that it looks at, and how it's radiant, and how it dominates the sky. And the stars are just little dots. That's the comparison. That's what Muhammad ﷺ compared an alim, a scholar, to an abid, a worshipper. And of course you can be both, and inshallah we will be both. And in this particular hadith, Muhammad ﷺ, that's what he compared it. And in another hadith, another narration in Sunan Tirmidhi by Abu Sama al-Bahili, Muhammad ﷺ said, the supreme status of an alim over an abid is supreme how I am over the least one of you. So a scholar is superior over a worshipper the way Muhammad ﷺ is superior over the lowest Muslim. Think about that. Somebody who worships Allah day and night, the scholar is superior to him the way Muhammad ﷺ is superior to the worst Muslim. Think about that. And we know Muhammad ﷺ is superior over the scholars than anybody else. And so if you think about that comparison, the amount of honor that somebody has to study Islam, it's incredible. So look at what the hadith goes on to say. Verily, the scholars are the heirs of the prophets. They are the heirs of the prophets. The person who inherits from the prophet is a scholar. So if you want to inherit something from the prophets, if you want to be living right now, you want to inherit something from the prophets, direct inheritance, something better than you can get from any of your parents, all you have to do is study Islam. It's an honor upon an honor. Just imagine, if you're a scholar, Allah will see you as an inheritor of Muhammad ﷺ. That's like being one of the children of Muhammad ﷺ. You inherit from him. Think about that. Think about that immense honor before Allah. And the hadith goes on to tell you, verily the prophets did not leave as inheritance dinar and dirham. They didn't leave dollars and change. They didn't leave bank accounts or money. They left knowledge And so whoever takes it has gotten indeed a great fortune. So some people, they want to inherit money. They want to be billionaires. They want to be Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg. And I mean, it's good to gain money. They want to be like Ibn Talal. There's nothing wrong with working. And it's good to work. But in the end, what we prefer is knowledge. Some people want to be presidents, and they want powers. They want to be kings. They want prominent positions. Maybe to be just. But it's better for them to just inherit a little bit of knowledge. That is better than to be that. Some people, what really matters, if you really want to inherit something from the Anbiya, you inherit knowledge. And if you want to grab a chunk of their inheritance, you gain from them ilm. And that's the least thing anybody wants today. The most minimal thing anybody wants today is knowledge. And the least of the knowledge is Islamic knowledge. Some people might gain some knowledge to get money. They might do a college degree. But how many people do you really see trying to get any Islamic knowledge? Muslim or non-Muslim? Nobody wants Islamic knowledge. You try and tell somebody to get some Islamic knowledge, you tell, akhi, listen to me. They don't want to hear it. They hate Islamic knowledge so much that they won't even listen to some advice. That's the least. But that's inheritance of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when you have a dad and he has 2 sons, those 2 sons are going to inherit a lot, right? If he has 50 sons, each son is going to inherit less and less, right? So think about it today. There's not that many people who want to inherit from the prophets. So how much could you inherit? Think about that. Sallallahu alayhi wa Muhammad. So how many people pursue that, and how many people raise their kids to pursue that? Abul-Wafa ibn Aqil said, Allah guarded me as a youth, and He limited my love to all I loved when I was youth was knowledge. I never mingled with people who were players or playful or foolish ever. I only enjoined with the students of knowledge. And he said, now that I'm in my 80s, I'm more eager to learn than I am when I was in my 20s. Now that I'm in my 80s, I love to learn more than when I was in my 20s. He's been learning his whole life. And he says he loves to learn more now. He didn't stop. He likes learning more now that he's 80. Mutarrif said, I love to learn. I think it's better. And I would love to learn more than I love to worship, than I do worship. I would prefer to be learning more than I worship. It's more beloved to him than worshiping Allah to learn. And this is not just him, this is a lot of ulama. We know that learning is also part of worshiping Allah, of course. Yahya ibn Kathir, the great Sheikh, the great Mufassir. We all have Ibn Kathir. We all know the tafsir of Ibn Kathir. He said, you'll never get knowledge, real knowledge, by resting with a lot of rest, by resting a lot. You need to take away some of your resting time, some of your sleeping time, and add it to what you're going to do for knowledge. You're not going to become knowledge spending a lot of time on Facebook or Twitter. You're not going to become knowledgeable. However, there is a balance to that. There is benefit in Facebook and Twitter. You can give dawah on Facebook and Twitter. You can do a lot of good on Facebook and Twitter, definitely. However, there needs to be a balance. There needs to be a balance between dawah and learning, and we'll discuss that later. But you shouldn't be on there just wasting your time. Some brothers, they spend a historical amount of time, unprecedented hours on Facebook and Twitter, just wasting their time. And not just Facebook and Twitter, video games. Sometimes they'll spend 200 hours on a video game, or 300 hours, or they watch a TV show. I mean, these things are wrong anyways. But to spend all this massive amount of time on it, and it doesn't benefit you, and in the end you're disappointed, why did the show have to end, and then you want another show? It's not satisfying you. Why do you keep doing it to yourself? You're just making yourself ride an emotional roller coaster that doesn't benefit you. It doesn't benefit you in this world, and it doesn't benefit you in the next world. Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala said, studying knowledge at night is more beloved to me at times than worshiping Allah at night. So sometimes he would prefer to study Islam, open up a book and study, than to do Qiyam al-Layl. Az-Zuhri rahimahullah said, Ma abdillah bimithil ilm. Allah is never worshipped in a way like the worship of seeking knowledge. Meaning, studying Islamic knowledge, memorizing, reading, this is one of the best ways to worship Allah. And all types of knowledge, not just Tawheed like we're studying now, It is the mother of all knowledge of Islamic knowledge, and it's the one that saves you from the hellfire, but we're talking all types of Islamic knowledge. Ash-Shafi'i rahimahullah said, طلب العلم أفضل من صلاة النافلة. What does this mean? Tulab is prompting. Ilm is knowledge. Afdal is better. Min is from. Salat is salah. Al-nafila, the extra. Studying ilm is more important than a nafila prayer. Or it's more beneficial, it's better than studying a nafila prayer. It's a better fadila. This means you need to understand the way that these guys lived their lives, like Imam Shafi, Ibn Kathir. The way that their lives were was their schedule was 24/7 worshiping Allah. Wake up, worship Allah. Go to sleep, worshiping Allah. Every single day, they wake up, they pray their fajr for an hour, they sit in the place that they're praying, they make their adhkar, they study some Islam, they pray Salatul Duha. We don't even know what Salatul Duha is. They're praying Salatul Duha. Salatul Duha is 2 to 4 rakat that you pay 6 hours after Fajr, 1/4 of the day after Fajr. You pray 6 hours after Fajr. So about 12 o'clock, before Dhuhr. Dhuhr is when the sun is right after the highest point. Duha is when it's right there. So here's the sun right in the middle, Duha is in between.
I thought you were not allowed to pray yet.
No, yes, you're right. It depends on, in summer, yeah. In summer it'd be around 10. But it's winter now, so it'd be around 12. It's 1/4 of the day after Fajr. So it'd be around 12. But you just calculate it for yourself. You're not allowed to pray after Fajr, right after, when the sun is rising. That's a no-go. But when it rises to the point where it's about 1/4 of the day, you should pray. And in fact, there's a hadith that says that when you wake up, there's a charity owed from every single limb of your body. You have to give a charity. And one of the ways, the best charity you can give is 2 rakat Salatul Duha. You should just go and pray 2 rakat Salatul Duha. It's just like 2 rakat Fajr. Just go and you pray and khalas. So that, they're worshipping every day. They did all the sunnah. They studied Islam. They were doing jihad. They were giving dawah. The reason why they would say, I prefer studying knowledge over worship is sometimes their schedule was 24/7 and it was to the point where they had to choose. Are you going to study this or are you going to worship? Am I going to teach this class? Am I going to read this book? Am I going to write this book? Am I going to listen to my sheikh? Am I going to take this new class? Am I going to practice my Qur'an? Or am I going to go and pray the Sunnah Salah? And at that point, when they had literally not a single extra second in their day, then they would go with studying Islam. It was said Imam Nawawi used to take 12 classes a day. That's crazy, right? 12 classes. And he would spend 1 hour reviewing every class. How many hours is that? 24 hours a day. That's Imam Nawawi rahimahullah. Just think about that. That's what he used to do. That's not a joke.
When did he go to bed?
That's the thing. Imam Nawawi didn't sleep. Imam Nawawi, he would study. And sometimes accidentally he would be sitting in his books. His whole house was books. If somebody came and they wanted to hang out with Imam Nawawi, they wanted to learn from him, there literally wasn't place on his floor. It was all mountains of books and papers. He would actually have to move a pile so they could have a little block to sit on. And the only time he would sleep is he would be studying, and it would literally not be possible for him to stay awake, so he would just lean on his books a little bit, maybe, an hour and a half, and then get up and study more. That's it. And we're going to discuss Imam Nawawi in a little bit. And so, preparing for a class also. At that time, it becomes better for nafila. It's better to do that than to pray nafila. And trust me, these guys had 24 hours worshiping Allah. We waste so much time. We spend an hour in the bathroom trying to wake up in the morning. Maybe we stare at our food a little bit. We decide for 45 minutes what we're going to eat today. We sit around. We make unnecessary Photoshop pictures. We eat too many hot dogs. We try and make too much money. We waste our time sometimes. Sometimes we waste our time. We can worship Allah and do the nafila and study a little bit of Islam at the same time. We're not like them. We haven't reached the level where we're filling our day 24/7 Islam, dawah, jihad, that's it. No. We can do both, inshallah. And that's how they traveled after sacred ilm. They understood the honor of ilm. We discussed how honorable ilm was. The second, Allah in His last revelation to mankind, the second most important thing after Himself was ilm. Because that gets you to Allah. The first thing that He revealed to Musa was Iqra. And these ulama understood, this is the creator of the heavens and the earth. We discussed who Allah is. This is the one who created everything. And He's telling us, insignificant us, the second most important thing for you is ilm. So they understood that and they filled their day with that. So we're going to give some examples of the scholars, inshallah, to raise our iman and to help us and to encourage us, inshallah. Jabir and Abu Ayyub, rahimahullah. Ahmad, rahimahullah, and Abu Ya'la, rahimahumullah, narrated that Jabir, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, traveled from Medina to Sham. Medina, in Saudi Arabia, to Syria. They didn't have cars, they didn't have motorcycles, they didn't have planes. This is by camel or by horse. So it's going to take a long time. Look at the map. Just look at how far that is. From Mecca all the way to Syria. It's far. And to take one hadith from Abdullah ibn Uyais. In fact, to add more to it, Ibn Abdul Barr narrated in his book, Ajami Bayan al-Ilm, a very nice little book about knowledge, about the significance of knowledge. He mentioned the story of Abu Ayyub radiallahu ta'ala anhu arda. Abu Ayyub was in Medina. And he got all his stuff, he packed his belongings, and he went from Medina to Egypt. He went all the way from Medina, to Africa, to Egypt. To meet Uqba ibn Nufaya radiallahu ta'ala anhu arda. And when he got to Egypt, he met the Amir of Egypt, the leader of Egypt. Muslima ibn Maqlad al-Ansari. Muslima Maqlad greeted him for a couple moments. He embraced him, and he asked him, what brings a man like you here? He's happy to see him. What brings a man like you here, Abu Ayyub radiallahu ta'ala anhu? May Allah have mercy upon him, or may Allah be pleased with him, and Allah is pleased with him. Abu Ayyub said, what brings me here is a hadith that I heard from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and nobody else heard it from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam except for Uqba ibn Nufaya radiallahu ta'ala anha. That's the name of the other guy. So Abu Ayyub heard a hadith, he heard Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam say something. And the only other person in the world who heard it was Uqba. So he went from Mecca all the way to Egypt. Because that was the only other person who heard it. Why? So he went to Uqba's house. Uqba opened the door. He hugged him. He was amazed. He was surprised to see him. I haven't seen him in a while. And he said, Abu Ayyub, what brings you here? What brings you to this far away place? Abu Ayyub radiallahu ta'ala said, there's a hadith I heard from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and nobody heard this hadith but me and you. It's a hadith about covering the faults of a Muslim. What is it, Uqba? Uqba said, yes, I heard it from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever covers the faults, the embarrassments of a believer in this life, Allah will cover his faults on the day of judgment. You know this hadith. So, Abu Ayyub heard this. He heard the hadith. Abu Ayyub said, you are right, sadaqt. You have spoken truthfully. So what do you think he did after this? Do you think he sat down at Uqba's house and he had a coffee or a tea, relaxed a little bit? Maybe he just traveled hundreds of miles. Maybe he wants to put his bag down. And then Uqba, he has perfect manners, very good manners. He invited him. But the hadith said he didn't even untie his baggage. He didn't even open his bag to get anything out. He didn't get his toothbrush out. He didn't get his sock out. He didn't get anything out. He turned back, he turned around, he got in his camel and he went right back to Medina. And from Medina to there he went to Egypt. He went all the way from Medina, all the way to Egypt. For what? To hear one hadith. Not a hadith that he didn't know. He knew this hadith. He just wanted to hear it again. That's how much they love knowledge. This is Sahabi. This is why they're the greatest generation. He just wanted the honor of being graced with that knowledge. So today, we tell people, go home, heat up your delicious kebab, get a nice hot dog, delicious food, just a little snack, warm up your coffee, get your tea, lie down on your bed, get comfortable, wear your best clothing, perfume so you can smell nice, lock your door, dim down the lights. Everything's perfect, right? Click on YouTube and learn for 30 minutes. Khalas. Just 30 minutes a day. 15 minutes. If people went and listened to my classes, 15 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, they would finish them every week. That's it. And in the supreme comfort, in the warm weather of your house, 3 views on YouTube. That's it. 2 of them is Furqan, 1 of them is me. Why? These people went hundreds of miles just to reaffirm something that they were 100% certain about. And people can't take the time out of their day in the utmost comfort to learn the most basic of things. And these are people who traveled in the desert in the hot sun without easy access to water or food, without comforts, all just to reaffirm something. The next one we're going to talk about is Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani. And this is a guy who just did not sleep. He was one of the big students of Imam Abu Hanifa. And we're going to, inshallah, I don't know if it's next class or the class after, we're going to be discussing fiqh. Today we're discussing ilm, rahimakallah, and it's taking us a long time, right? We're going to discuss one word for about 4 classes. 4 classes, inshallah. We're going to discuss one word. And we're going to discuss this man named Abu Hanifa who founded the Hanafi madhab. So, Abu Hanifa was one of the biggest scholars ever. He's one of the fathers of fiqh. And this is his student, Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani. He barely ever slept, barely. And when you say they took out of their sleep time, we're saying that, he did sleep. He's a human being. He has to sleep a little bit. But he limited it so much. They're made of flesh and blood, but they are devoted to a goal. And they asked Allah to help them. And Allah will make the impossible possible. And they did everything they did. Whenever Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani used to get tired at night, he would have a bucket of ice. So sitting there in the darkness of the night, they don't have ambient lights. You can't turn on the lights and turn yourself awake. He's sitting with a dark candle. He's sitting with these books. These books are handwritten, maybe the handwriting is sloppy. These notes. Challenge. Yes, he did the ice bucket challenge. He would get tired at night, rahimahullah. And he had a bucket of ice in it with cold water, and he would put his hands in it and he would wipe his eyes in his face. So imagine every single night you're tired. You haven't slept in 24 hours and you're studying. You barely have concentration. What do? You go to sleep, you get some water, you wake yourself up and you keep going for another couple hours. All the time, every day of his life. Think about that. And this is what made him one of the top students of Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. And we're talking about somebody else. Asad ibn al-Furat rahimahullah. He was a scholar from Spain, Islamic Spain. So you don't have to be Al-Andalus. Yeah, you don't have to be an Arab. Or maybe he was, it doesn't matter. You could be from anywhere in the world and you can study Islam. You could be from America. And he used to live in Spain. And also, the North African region as well, close, and they had the Maliki madhab. And we're also going to be discussing who Imam Malik was, rahimahullah, and his madhab. And, question? Or is that just? Okay, so in North Africa and in Spain, that was mostly Malikis. And I'm from North Africa, so I studied the Maliki madhab as well, Sudan. And so, he went from Spain to Medina to study from Imam Malik. And he learned the madhab of Imam Malik. And he studied with Imam Malik rahimahullah. And when he learned everything Imam Malik had to teach him, look at that. He went from Spain to North Africa to Medina. He traveled across the world. There's no planes. This is on camel. This is on a horse. Probably not horse, most likely camel. And then from there, he went to Iraq. And he studied with Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. And then he went to study with Abu Hanifa's student, Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani, the one who used to put the cold water on his face and who barely slept. And so he entered Iraq and he studied with him. And went to the mosque that Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani teaches in. And of course this masjid is full. It's not like today. Everybody wants to learn from this great sheikh. This is partially because the people then were sincere. It's partially because the sheikh was so sincere. So he waits for the crowd to leave after the class. And then he sees a close knit. Because sometimes the imam, he has his close friends after everybody else leaves, right? So he breaks through the close knit of friends. He goes to Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani. And he says, Imam, I'm a stranger and I don't have any money. These people were simple. They lived simple lives. All they cared about was gaining knowledge. They didn't have a lot of money. So he said, I don't have a lot of money. I'm a stranger here. I don't know anybody long. And I can't stay that long in Iraq. I need to go back to Spain. So what's the best way for me to absorb all your knowledge? He's not concerned about money. He's not concerned about, are you going to give me a place to stay, food? It doesn't matter to him. How can I get your knowledge as fast as possible so that my money doesn't run out on me, whatever little I have? Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani said, in the daytime, come to the normal halaqas. At night time, you come to my house and I'm going to teach you. How many shuyukh, you go to them, I want to learn from you. They'll be like, okay, come to my house at night. It's going to be very difficult. And alhamdulillah, our shaykh, he'll teach you later at night. Definitely. But you go to Dar Noor, it's going to be very difficult. And it's understandable. But it's be very difficult to find a shaykh who will do something like that.
Are they married?
Some of them were married, some of them were not. But you have to imagine traveling across the world is hard. Sometimes they would have a wife in one area and then they would go marry in another area. And they're traveling between often. So it depends on the specific people. Imam Nawawi never got married. When he was on his deathbed, they asked him, why didn't you get married? Because it's a big deal. He said, I forgot. He was so studying. This is the guy who there was no place in his house for anybody to sit. He studied Islam so much that he actually forgot to get married. He forgot about his own desires. This is how much he's studying. Ibn Taymiyyah never got married, rahimahullah, and other shuyukh never got married. But you should get married. It's sunnah, and there's a lot of reward in getting married, inshallah. But we talked about how they preferred to do worships over nafilah. Marriage is a bigger sunnah, but you just understand how much they love the ilm. And there was a similar story that was weak by Baqi ibn Makhlad, but we're not going to discuss it right now. So at the day, he would join the regular halaqah. And at night, he would go into the sheikh's house, Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani's house, and he would learn from him. And every time, this is the guy who never slept. He had the ice bucket challenge. And every time he was sleeping, he would get sleepy while teaching, wake himself up. But his student didn't do that. He didn't have his own bucket. So his student would fall asleep, this guy who was traveling across the world. So the shaykh would take some water and wake him up. And that's what they did. From all they did was qala Allah, qala Rasul. Allah said, Muhammad said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you sleep 8 hours a day, and let's say you live 60 years, right? That's 1/3 of your life you're going to be sleeping, 20 hours. Think about that. Imagine if you had those, that's 20 years. Imagine if you had those extra 20 years. It'd be as if you lived 80 years of your life instead of 60. Look, I'm not telling you that you need to do that. I'm not telling you need to fill your house with books. All you do is study. I'm not telling you that. I'm telling you just study a little bit. All that time that you waste, that it doesn't end up benefiting you, just study with it. Review notes. If you just sit down and you review the notes from these durus, maybe you take notes and you just compile all your notes and you save your notes, one day you'll be able to teach this class and it'll be stuck in your head forever. You'll always have this understanding. Asad ibn al-Furat, he went back to Spain. What do you think he did? You think he took one leg and he put the other leg on top, which is not allowed anyways? Do you think he did that and he leaned back and he relaxed and he said, you know what? I studied with Imam Malik, I studied with Imam Abu Hanifa, I studied with Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani, I studied with all these shuyukh, I traveled the world. I know, I'm good. I know about Islam, right? That's not what he did. He went back and he taught Imam Malik's compilation of hadith, the Muwatta, throughout the entirety of Spain and North Africa. And not only did he do dawah, spreading Islam and the seeking knowledge, he actually did jihad too, and he was in the conquer of Suqliya. What's Suqliya? Sicily. Did you know the Muslims conquered Sicily? No. And he was in that battle and he got killed, and he was an imam and he died. Rahimahullah, may Allah accept him as a shaheed. Ameen, ameen, ameen. Do you think Asad ibn al-Furat became this great man, out fighting, conquering, learning all this, spreading Islam, traveling the world? Do you think he did that by wasting his time playing Angry Birds? Definitely not. Do you think he did this by wasting his time, talking with girls? Definitely not. Do you think he did this by... Yarhamakallah. No, he didn't do this by wasting his time. Definitely not. These were men who understood that there's a saying, I believe it's from Hassan al-Basri rahimahullah, where he says, mankind is composed of days. Think it's a very profound statement. All you're made up is of days, and your days are running out like that. And you're running out. They understood how valuable time is. Time is the way that you gain ilm. Time is the way how you're going to gain the sacred knowledge. So we're going to discuss some more shuyukh. Sayyid ibn Musayyib Al-Razi, and Al-Bukhari rahimahum ajma'in. Sayyid ibn Musayyib said, rahimahullah, I used to travel nights and days for one hadith. Just one. Nights and days. This is a hadith that now you can literally get it in 2 seconds. Type it up. Bukhari 5, 6, 7, 8. Boop, boop, boop. Done. You have the hadith. Arabic, English, everybody who narrated, what the ulama said, instantly. They used to travel night and days just to get the hadith. Think about that. And we have it instantly, but we don't use it. We have all these hadith. Yeah, how many hadith do we have memorized? Can we say the first line of a single hadith? Yet they used to travel nights and days just to get one. And we have literally tens of thousands of hadith at our fingertips. And commentaries in different languages. Al-Razi rahimahullah said, I traveled more than 1,000 farsakh as a student of knowledge. And then I stopped counting at 1,000 farsakh. What's a farsakh? It's about 5,000 kilometers today. Which is about 3,106 miles today. How many farsakh? 1,000 farsakh.
Oh.
What's 1,000 times 3,000? Think about that. Think about how many miles he traveled. And he said he stopped counting. And he did this, he said he did this as a student of knowledge. That's just what he calculated. That's just what he could remember.
3 million.
And he stopped because he could no longer calculate. And he continued his journey as a student of knowledge.
3 million.
Incredible. Al-Bukhari used to go to sleep, and when he was asleep, he would remember stuff. Because his mind was always working. Because you know sometimes you dream and you think about stuff, right? All he thought about was knowledge. So he'd be sleeping, he would remember something. Or he is in that state of sleep where he's not in that deep of a sleep, right? So he remembers something. For his books or his hadith. And he would get up and he would write it down, and then he'd go back to sleep or to his nap. And then another time he would get up and write it down. And then again, and again, and again, and again, and again. Ibn Kathir rahimahullah said in his book, At-Tariq, the history, he said Bukhari used to wake up 20 times on an average night to jot down something that he remembered. To write down something. So imagine you're only sleeping 4 hours and you get up 20 times to write something. And this is not impossible. We have scholars nowadays who don't do anything like to this level, but they do things that are similar. These were the people that knew the value of knowledge. This is them. Like you see some of the shuyukh who have Bukhari memorized. That's a lot. Bukhari, all in Arabic, everybody who narrated, they know the history of every single person narrated, all their interactions. That's a lot. Ibn Majah, Nasa'i, Tirmidhi, Muslim, Imam Nawawi's 40, Muwatta Imam Malik, Ahmad ibn Hanbal's tens of thousands of hadith. And you tell them a single hadith, they can tell it to you instantly. And what page number it on. And what line specifically. And they have the Qur'an memorized in 10 qira'at. How much is that? 60,000 pages of Qur'an. And they know every single line. Given the page, they can do it. And they have most of the books of fiqh memorized. These are scholars today. Let alone the scholars back then.
These are scholars today.
Today, there are shaykh who do this. Most of them, sadly, are in prison. Because Allah tests those He loves. But some people said there's more knowledge in the prisons of Saudi Arabia than there is in the rest of the world. I don't know how to agree with that, but there's definitely some incredible shuyukh. May Allah hasten their release. Ameen, ameen, ameen. So knowledge didn't come to them while they were on their mattresses, sitting, warm, all their food. We can do that and still get knowledge. But they strived and strived and strived to get their knowledge, and they were poor. This is the man, Bukhari, who he got a book, he selected in this book over 600,000 hadith. He went through 600,000 hadith. 600,000 before he picked the hadith for this book. And without repetition, Bukhari has 2,602 hadith. And a good way to memorize this is, you can obviously memorize, 6,000. But if you want to memorize the end, Muhammad lived for how many years? Add that at the end. And when with repetition, it's 7,593 hadith. Ibn Hajar said, it's 7,397 hadith.
For what?
Ibn Hajar added 4 hadith in Bukhari with repetitions. And he went through 600,000 hadith to pick Bukhari. And if you put the repeated hadith, وطلقات المتبعات, he has over 9,082 hadith in his book. And not a single hadith that he put in there except that he prayed 2 rakat istikhara. How many rakat istikhara that is? That's about 10,000 hadith. 20,000 rakat istikhara. And what about all the hadiths he didn't include? And what if he did? But no. He went through 600,000 hadith for Bukhari. How many? 1,200,000 rakat istikhara.
Oh, for each hadith.
For each hadith. He did 2 rakat istikhara. That's 1 million istikhara. 1,200,000 istikhara. How many rakat istikhara? Maybe we've never even played a single rakat istikhara. But I'm not asking you to do 1 million istikhara. I'm asking you to just know what you need to know about Islam. Knowledge doesn't come without effort. But I mean, you can sleep a little bit. You can rest. You can have some social media. That's not what I'm telling you. I'm just showing you what the ulama understood. This first word, "I'lam rahimakallah," this is what the ulama understood "I'lam" to mean. He wants you to know that you need to, this Muhammad ibn Abdul-Wahab, he wants you to know that you need to honor the knowledge that's about to come. You need to honor it. He's telling you something important is coming. He's engaging something important. This thing that he's about to tell you, this "I'lam," no, this thing that he wants you to know, he wants you to sacrifice for it. Because it's something valuable. Because it's ilm, and we know what ilm is, and we know what the ulama did for ilm. So we mentioned all these ulama, and we're thinking ourselves, I can never be like that. It's just not possible. So why do we mention them? I'm not mentioning them to discourage you. If we can be 5% of that, maybe if we strive our whole life starting tonight, we can be 10%. I think inshallah, we'll be in a pretty good shape, inshallah. And if we compare ourselves to the people who waste their time, who go about sinning, alcohol, zina, all these things, mu'adallah min dhalik, wastaghfirullah min dhalik, compared to them, think about that, all the ghibah that people do, and you spend your time studying Islam, then that would be good, inshallah. You can be from the ghuraba. Alright, so now we're going to discuss a couple more shuyukh, inshallah. We're going to discuss An-Nawawi, Lisan ad-Din, Ibn Khatib, and Wadi ibn Jabal. I really want to drill into your head that it's not just a couple of people. There are hundreds of thousands of shuyukh that did these kinds of things. It's not uncommon. Look at Imam Nawawi rahimahullah. This is the guy who used to sleep on top of his books, the Sufi Sheikh. He wrote volumes upon volumes. And he died when he was 44 years old, right? Rahimahullah. He wrote tons of books. Do you know when he started writing? When he was in his 30s. In 14 years, he wrote all these books. He wrote Sharh Muslim. He wrote Riyadh al-Salih. All these books that we reference today. Even I think in the first class we were referencing Sharh Muslim. That's how influential he is. In the first lesson, for the first step, so you can understand the first thing in Islam, we're referencing him. And he only started writing when he was 30. Sharh Muslim, that beautiful, amazing book that explains the books, the ahadith in Muslim. Riyadh al-Salihin, Al-Adhkar, Al-Majmu', Manhaj fi al-Fiqh, At-Tayban fi Adab Hamalat al-Qur'an, which discuss the manners of the people who carry and memorize Qur'an. Al-Ihda, Musan al-Arifin, Manhaj al-Talibin, Riwayat al-Talibin. He wrote Tadhib al-Asma' al-Lughat, Al-Targhib, which is a summary of Ibn Salah's book on the science of hadith, the 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi. What person doesn't know about the 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi, rahimahullah? What kind of student of knowledge doesn't say rahimahullah to Imam Nawawi tens and dozens of times a day? What kind of a student of knowledge doesn't make dua for Imam Nawawi dozens of times a day? He wrote Zuwaid al-Rawda, and this is a book on Usool al-Fiqh. He started interpretation of Sahih Bukhari, but he wasn't able to finish it, rahimahullah. And it would have been a great, magnificent book like Ibn Hajj on Sharh Sahih Muslim. One time he said, I spent 2 years in my life and I never laid down on my side on a mattress on the ground. 2 years he never lied down. The entire 2 years. So I ask you, how did you sleep? 2 years? When he used to get tired, he's sitting there like this on his books. Lean forward. Or lean. That tells you how many books. And that tells you what he used to do. And he used to take just a little nap. For a few moments. Just a little power nap. This shows you his goals are different. For us, our goals are to be comfortable, to do things that we shouldn't be doing, to waste our time, to have fun. But really, if we want the happiness, that beautiful sweetness of Iman, this is what we need to be doing. So some people want Jannat al-Firdaus. Some people want to be on that top level. Some people, they want to be in the neighborhood of the Sahaba. Some people, they want to open their door and be across the street from Abu Bakr. Some people, they want their palaces in Jannah, the roof to be what? The Arsh of Allah. Some people, they want to be on the top floor of their palaces with their beautiful wives, 74 wives. And they want to look, Shaheed for 70, yes, exactly. Some people, they want to have the Arsh of Allah right there in its magnificence. On the top floor, looking out on the entirety of Jannah. Their eyesight not limiting them to what they can see. Some people, they want to be near Umar ibn al-Khattab. Some people, they want to be as close as possible to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They want to be the first people Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam sees when he comes down from Wasila to go somewhere else. That's what some people want. Some people, maybe, they just barely crawl into the door of Jannah. And some people, they enter Jahannam forever. It's all just up to you. What do you want? It's your choice. Allah made it 100% your choice. If you want Jannah for those, that's it. All you have to do, you don't even have to be like these Imams. It's maybe, inshallah, if you try your best, Allah will reward you with me anyways. Some people, at the age of 44, he probably did more for this ummah than, without exaggeration, millions of people. If you took millions of Muslims, if you took every single Muslim, maybe from the time the Khilafah, the Ottoman Caliphate fell, to before the 1st of Ramadan this year, all of them, you added them up, Imam Nawawi probably did more for this ummah than all of them. Wallahu alam.
They barely probably did anything like
Compared to Imam, this one man. And you think Allah can't make you like this? Allah can make you like this man, no problem. Just be sincere and try your best. Lisan ad-Din ibn Khatib was another alim from Spain. He lived around the year 1340 and he's a well-known leader and scholar of Spain. They used to call him Dul Umarain. What's Amr? It's your life. Umar. What's a Dul? Two. Dul Qarnain, the two horns. Dul is two. So they call him two lives. The man with a double life. What do you call somebody with a double life now? They go to work and then they go home and then no, not they pray. You should be praying at work because you probably need to. But they go to work and then they go out to the bar or the club. And that's what you consider double life, right? Or they do something else. They have one wife here and then a girlfriend over there. Double life, right? Not so with this man. At the day he would be occupied dealing with matters and ruling the entirety of Spain, right? He was ruling a country, being a just leader. And then at night, he would go home, write and learn and read. So he had a double life. At one time, he's ruling his country and being just. Another time, he's learning Islam. Inshallah, I'll try and finish before Maghrib, but we might have to say a little bit after Maghrib. Sorry. You're just going to have to stick to it. Is there no food? Yeah, this is better than food. I'm telling you, this is better than food. But I understand. Definitely. We can cut out a little bit and do it next class, inshallah, if we really need to. I'm mentioning these examples so we can be just a little bit like them, inshallah. And this is what the author means when he says, you can get full 8 hours of rest. You can sleep on a good night's mattress. You don't need to lean on some hard, tough books. You can have space for people to come over on the floor. You don't need to travel country to country to country to country to country. Just take the time that you spend wasting and put it into studying Islam. Muhammad ibn Jabal radiallahu ta'ala anhu died when he was 35 years old. And this is the man who every single Muslim you're going to see in Yemen, every single Muslim, every second that they're alive and they're Muslim, Muhammad ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu was sitting in his grave getting a reward for them. Every single Muslim, since he set foot in Yemen, every single one, and every single Muslim that became Muslim because of those Muslims, and every conquest, and every jihad, and every dawah, and every moment anybody spent reciting a letter of Qur'an and Salah, he gets a reward for that. And he died when he was only 35. Think about that. And this is what you get from ilm. Do you think the tire, the pain, the stress, the sadness Imam Nawawi and Muaz went through is here. Even when they're alive, they have the sweetness of Iman. But can you feel their pain right now? Is their pain alive? Can we even read about their pain? No. You're not going to hear them whining, so you can read about it. Yet, look at their work. Their work remains and all that reward remains. And you think on the Day of Judgment, they're going to say, oh, I wish I hadn't done it. They're going to say, I wish I somehow did more. They feel their entire day and they wish they did more. And that's what they get from their tire and their restless nights. That's what they get. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, they asked him, when are you going to rest? When are you going to go to sleep? You're going to have time to rest when you die. He said, when I go in the grave. Dying or sleep is the minor death. Maut is the bigger death. So we should try, inshallah, to limit sleep. Imam Nawawi said, you can just imagine Imam Nawawi lying in his grave, just a big shining smile on his face, because and there's probably not a minute that goes by that he isn't getting rewarded. Every time we say Rahimahullah, he gets rewarded. Every time we mention him, he gets rewarded. Anytime we reference one of his rulings, he gets rewarded. Anytime we look at one of the hadith he compiled, we get rewarded. Anytime we mention something, one of his students, or somebody who learned it, or if 500 people learned, or one person learned it from Imam Nawawi, then another person learned it from that guy, and 500 people later you get it, Imam Nawawi still gets a reward for all those people. Al-Badr ibn Jama'ah said, I went to visit Imam Nawawi one time, and he couldn't find a place to sit. This is what we mentioned earlier. And he also said, he pursued knowledge in his books like a mother looking for her lost son. So you know how a mom would be crazy looking for knowledge, flipping through the pages. That's how Imam Nawawi was, rahimahullah. Sulaiman ibn Abdul Malik and the Khalifa. There's going to be a few, let me see. There's still, we haven't even got it. Next class is Rahimakallah. What?
You said the mom looks through the pages like
no, the mom, the mom looking for, no, that would be really weird if her son was like in a book. That would not be good. But you know what I meant. Like a mom looking for her kid, she's looking through the pages. Anyways. Yeah. Alright, sorry. You guys maybe lose my spot. So, Hassan Basri said, two people are never satisfied. The student of knowledge and the student of wealth. The person who seeks knowledge always wants more knowledge, and the person who wants wealth always wants more wealth. This shows you the level of patience that people who are students of knowledge. It's a treasure to get knowledge, and you should chase knowledge. I'lam, rahimakallah. Sulaiman ibn Abdul Malik, the Khalifa, and Ata ibn Rabah. Sulaiman ibn Abdul Malik, the leader, the Khalifa, he's the Khalifa from Bani Umayyah, and he went to make Hajj. And he had two of his sons with him. And he needed to ask some questions about Hajj, like some fiqh questions. So he told them to go to Ata ibn Abi Rabah. Ata ibn Abi Rabah was a tabi'i. What's a tabi'i? There's a Sahaba, and then the people that met the Sahaba but they didn't meet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they're tabi'i. And he died 114 years after the Hijrah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was an ex-slave and he was just freed. And he had a disease in his eyes. And one of his eyes didn't work. And his body used to go limp. And on top of that, he's a slave. And there are people who were racist against black people at that time. All of that, people who are ignorant, if you saw a guy in that like a sheet, you'd be like, oh, poor guy, right? That's because we're ignorant. An ignorant person will look down upon him. But the Khalifa of the Muslim, the leader of the Muslims, was going to him to learn something. That's how honorable he is. The head of the entire Muslim Ummah needed him. And he was under his domain, essentially. And when they finally found him, he was in Salah. And when he was standing in Salah, he was near the Kaaba. So the Khalifa stands and he sends his two sons and they wait for this guy to finish his Salah, right? And when he's finally done to Salah, the Khalifa says, Ata, I have a question. So he's facing the Kaaba, Ata is facing the Kaaba, and he's behind him. And the Khalifa asks him a question. This is an ex-slave. He's begging the ex-slave for this answer. The leader is asking this ex-slave who's deformed, he's making himself lower than him because he has knowledge. And his back was turned to him. And this ex-slave was so honorable that he didn't even turn around for the Khalifa. Because he doesn't need anything from the Khalifa. He doesn't need money, wealth, or power. He has Allah and he has ilm. The Khalifa needs him. So when Sulaiman saw this, how honorable this low man was, and how low he was as a Khalifa, even though he had all this wealth and power, and he told his two sons, Ya waliday, anta ya fi tulab al-ilm. He told them, don't be lazy in learning or attaining knowledge, because I will never forget how low we had to stand in front of Atta. The Khalifa is going to ask someone that's a big thing. This is the leader of everybody. Hundreds of thousands of people under him, perhaps millions, as he's asking this one person, making himself lower than him, because this person had knowledge. And this is an ex-slave with a blind eye, whose body goes limp. And he told his kids, never be lazy in seeking knowledge. He didn't tell his kids to become khulafa. He told them to seek knowledge. So Al-Kasai and the sons of the Khalifa. We also have a Shafi and Ibn Jawzi. And then I think we'll stop right after that, inshallah. And we'll do Rahimakallah next time.
Let's just do Shafi.
You know a guy named Shafi?
No, I'm saying let's just do till Shafi.
And we'll go to Ibn Jawzi because it's related.
Because you're losing me right now.
I know, we're going a long time. We had that 30-minute class, so this has to make up for it. Alright, I'll try and go quickly. Harun al-Rashid had two sons, Al-Amin al-Ma'mun. And he brought them a scholar called Al-Kasai in their home to teach them. When Al-Kasai got to the door, Harun al-Rashid saw that he either saw that he was told that his two sons, Al-Ma'mun and his other brother, went to the door. And they went and they opened the door for Al-Kasai and they took his shoes and they greeted him. When Harun was told this, or he saw this, he summoned Al-Kasai to the palace, to his room. And Al-Kasai, who is the most honored of people? Al-Kasai said, you, Harun al-Rashid, you are the Khalifa. You're the most honorable of people here. Harun said, no. Rather, the most honored amongst people is the one who the next in command to be the leaders. Go and open the door for him and take his shoes as if he was the next in command. So he's saying the most honorable person is the ones who the future leaders of the Muslims are going to take his shoes, to take his shoes off his feet and to put them for him. So that shows this, how honorable the scholar is. So now Shafi, we're going to discuss the Shafi. So from this class we mentioned Malik, Hanafi, and Shafi. And inshallah we'll also mention Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. We'll mention Imam Ahmad as well. We're all going to mention them when we discuss fiqh. Imam Shafi and Ibn Jawzi. Imam Shafi was asked, how did he study? How did he attain his knowledge? He said, a person's knowledge like a mother who was seeking her lost son. We discussed this earlier. And Ibn Jawzi said, I stayed years desiring harissa. Harissa is this delicious like candy that we want. We know it today. It's like a pastry, or it's a sweet. He said, I desired harissa for years, but I could never eat it because the guy who sells it at the masjid at the time would come when I have a class. And when I want to go to it, and I would want to go eat it, but I didn't want to miss the class. So for years, he wanted to eat the sweet. But at the same time, the guy was selling the sweet, there was a class in the masjid. And for years, he never refused to miss his class to go and have this thing that he was fantasizing about. That shows you our great scholars. Honor or reward for learning is deep. Learning is not just a superficial thing to do that you do in your leisure. It's not like you have nothing better to do, so let's attain a halaqah. Maybe that's what we're doing now, and it's good, alhamdulillah, we're doing something. But it's something that we need to sacrifice too. We discussed earlier, i'lam rahimakallah. You're going to need to sacrifice for it. Okay, I'm not going to discuss this stuff today. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. وآخر دعواتنا الحمد لله رب العالمين. سبحانك وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب عليك. Thank you.